First Contact Protocol. The galactic scientific research vessel, Eternal Curiosity, drifted silently in Earth's orbit, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to human detection systems. The ship housed the 43rd Xenological Research Team, comprised of 12 of the most brilliant scientific minds from across the Galactic Federation. Commander Xilera stood on the observation deck, her slender blue-hued body perfectly still as her 4 eyes studied the viewscreen displaying the blue-green planet below. 2 of her eyes focused on the landmasses, while the other 2 tracked atmospheric patterns. The ability to process multiple visual inputs simultaneously was just one of many evolutionary advantages her species held over the primitive bipeds that dominated the 3rd planet from this unremarkable yellow star. "Status report," she requested, her voice a melodic series of clicks and whistles that the ship's translation matrix converted to the standard galactic tongue. Science Officer Trelnick approached, his gelatinous form rippling with excited bioluminescent patterns. "The atmospheric analysis is complete, Commander. The planet's biosphere is remarkably diverse, but also significantly compromised by pollutants. The dominant species appears determined to poison their own habitat. Fascinating self-destructive behavior," Xilera noted. "And what of our subject selection process? We've identified 17 potential observation subjects," Trelnick replied, projecting a holographic display from his central sensing organ. "Based on the criteria established by the Xenological Council, we believe this individual would provide the most comprehensive data regarding human capabilities." A hologram focused on a human female with dark skin and tightly coiled hair, moving through what the Earth species called a forest. According to the data scrolling alongside the image, her name was Maya Chen, age 34, occupation wilderness survival instructor and former military special operations. Subject demonstrates advanced problem-solving capabilities, knowledge of local ecosystems, and operates primarily in isolation, reducing contact risks. Trelnick continued. "She's currently conducting a solo expedition in a remote region called the Northern Territories of a political division labeled Canada." Xilera nodded, the bioluminescent patterns on her face shifting to indicate approval. "Deploy the observation drones. Standard protocol. Full sensory package. Stealth configuration. Non-interference directive." Across the ship, the other scientists prepared for what promised to be an enlightening first contact observation mission. Dr. Zevran, the team's exobiologist, meticulously calibrated the biometric sensors while simultaneously analyzing the genetic makeup of various Earth species. His crystalline exoskeleton clicked softly as he worked, refracting the ambient light into prismatic patterns. "These humans are remarkably fragile," he commented to no one in particular. "Their cellular structure lacks redundancy, their skeletal system is brittle, and they possess no natural defenses. It's astonishing they've achieved dominance on a planet with such formidable predatory species." Behavioral analyst Mori floated nearby, her gaseous form contained within a specialized environmental suit. "Yet they've developed complex social structures and technologies despite these limitations. Their adaptability index is notably high." "Adaptability won't compensate for fundamental biological inadequacies," Zevran replied dismissively. "My preliminary assessment classifies them as a Category 3 species at best, tool users with limited potential." On the main deck, Strategic Defense Officer Krax monitored the situation with practiced vigilance. Though the Federation maintained strict non-interference protocols for uncontacted worlds, his species had evolved as apex predators, and caution was encoded in his DNA. His scaled skin shifted colors slightly as he processed the incoming data streams. "Deployment complete," announced drone operator Vish. "Observation units are in position and transmitting." The main view screen shifted to display multiple angles of Maya Chen moving confidently through dense forest undergrowth. She carried a minimal pack and what appeared to be a primitive cutting tool at her hip. Her movements were efficient and purposeful. "Subject has established a temporary shelter and appears to be documenting the local flora," reported Trelnick, fascinated by the human's methodical approach. Sensors indicate she's collecting specific plant specimens. Cosilara studied the human with growing interest. What's her technological capability? Minimal. Cracks interjected. She carries a rudimentary communication device, a cutting tool, fire-starting implements, and water purification tablets. No energy weapons, no advanced medical technology. Yet she ventures into hostile territory with such limited resources. Cosilara mused, either remarkable courage or remarkable foolishness. As the observation continued, the alien scientists documented Maya's activities with meticulous detail. She constructed a simple shelter, identified edible plants, set basic traps for small animals, and purified water from a nearby stream. Her efficiency was impressive, though her methods seemed primitively simplistic to the advanced observers. She appears to be singing, noted cultural specialist Jory, her antenna vibrating in response to the sound waves. A simple rhythmic vocalization with no apparent practical purpose. Perhaps a comfort mechanism, suggested Maury. Many primitive species use vocalization to self-soothe when isolated. As the local star began to set, Maya built a controlled fire and prepared a meal from her gathered resources. The aliens watched, cataloging each action, each tool use, each apparent decision with scientific detachment. "I've compiled a preliminary capability assessment," announced Zevran after several hours of observation. Subject demonstrates above-average problem-solving for her species, but relies heavily on pre-existing knowledge rather than true innovation. Physical capabilities are limited, estimated strength approximately 1/8 of a standard Craxian warrior, endurance roughly 1/3 of a Jory worker. Conclusion. Cosilara prompted. As suspected, a Category 3 species, tool users with primitive social structures. No evidence of telepathic ability, no significant biological advantages. They appear to have achieved planetary dominance primarily through reproductive rates and basic tool use. Cosilara nodded, but something about the human's calm self-sufficiency disturbed her initial assessment. Continue observation through the nocturnal cycle. I want a complete behavioral profile before we report to the Council. As the Earth's rotation brought darkness to Maya's location, the observation drones adjusted their sensory parameters. The human had extinguished her fire and retreated to her shelter, apparently to engage in the unconscious state her species required for neural recalibration. "Commander," Vish called suddenly. Sensors are detecting a large biological entity approaching the subject's position. "Identify," Cosilara ordered. "Local designation: grizzly bear. Apex predator, approximately 400 kilograms, omnivorous with predatory tendencies." Crax's scales shifted to a deep orange, his species' indication of heightened alert. The creature outmasses the human by a factor of 6 and possesses natural weapons our subject lacks. "Will this endanger our observation subject?" Cosilara asked, momentarily concerned about the potential loss of research data. "Almost certainly," Zevran replied with scientific detachment. "These predators are known to attack humans when encountering them in isolated settings. The subject's primitive defensive tools will prove inadequate against such an opponent." Cosilara considered the situation. The non-interference directive was absolute. They could not intervene to save the human, regardless of the outcome. Maintain observation protocol. If the subject is killed, we will select an alternative. The research team watched with clinical interest as the massive predator approached Maya's camp. The human remained asleep, unaware of the imminent danger. "Remarkable that a species with such poor sensory awareness achieved planetary dominance," commented Jory. "The subject is completely unaware of the predator's approach." But as the bear crossed into the clearing, Maya suddenly emerged from her shelter, fully alert and moving with surprising speed. She held no weapons but had positioned herself with the fire pit between her and the approaching predator. "She's detected the threat," Maury noted with surprise. "Response time significantly faster than predicted models." "Still irrelevant," said Zevran dismissively. "Without technological advantage, the outcome is inevitable." The alien observers watched intently as the human and Earth predator faced each other in the darkness. What followed would fundamentally challenge everything they thought they knew about this supposedly primitive species. The hunter becomes the hunted. The observation deck of the Eternal Curiosity hummed with tension as the alien research team watched the confrontation unfold. The massive bear rose to its full height, nearly 3 meters tall, and released a thunderous roar that caused the audio sensors on the observation drones to momentarily overload. Threat display, noted behavioral analyst Mori dispassionately. The predator is establishing dominance before attack. What happened next caused every alien observer to pause in confusion. Maya Chen didn't flee. She didn't cower. Instead, she rose to her full height, spread her arms wide, and shouted back at the creature with surprising volume. "Is she attempting communication with the predator?" asked cultural specialist Jory incredulously. "More likely a fear response manifesting as aggression," suggested Mori. Terminal defensive posturing is common among cornered prey species. Strategic Defense Officer Krax leaned forward, his scaled skin shifting to an attentive purple hue. "Note her positioning. She's maintaining the extinguished fire pit as a barrier and has angled her body to minimize target profile. Those are tactical decisions, not panic responses." The bear dropped to all fours and began advancing toward Maya, who continued shouting while slowly reaching into her pack. The creature's massive paws left deep impressions in the soft earth as it approached, its predatory intent unmistakable. "Subject has retrieved something," announced drone operator Vish, zooming the visual feed. Maya held a small cylindrical object in her hand. When the bear was approximately 4 meters away, she pointed the canister and released a cloud of spray directly at the animal's face. The bear recoiled with a roar of pain, pawing at its muzzle and eyes. "Chemical deterrent," identified exobiologist Zevran, his crystalline structure clicking in surprise. "Primitive but temporarily effective." The temporary advantage didn't last long. The irritant only enraged the predator further. It charged forward with surprising speed, despite its massive bulk. Maya attempted to dodge, but the uneven terrain betrayed her footing. She stumbled and fell hard, losing her grip on the spray canister. "Impact in 3 seconds," counted Vish grimly. The bear reached her just as she rolled onto her back. Its massive paw swung down in what should have been a killing blow. Somehow Maya partially evaded the strike, raising her left arm to deflect the impact. The bear's claws ripped through her outer garment and into flesh. Red human blood splattered across rocks and leaves. "Significant tissue damage," reported Zevran clinically. "The subject will be incapacitated and consumed shortly." But Maya Chen was far from finished. With a primal scream that contained equal parts pain and fury, she drove her right fist directly into the bear's throat with astonishing precision. The predator wheezed and momentarily backed off, clearly surprised by the counterattack. "Did you see that?" exclaimed Jory, her antenna vibrating intensely. "Perfect targeting of a vulnerable anatomical point." Maya scrambled backward, clutching her injured arm. The bear recovered quickly and charged again. This time she grabbed a fallen branch with her good arm and swung it with remarkable force, connecting solidly with the animal's snout. When the branch shattered, she seized a jagged rock and struck repeatedly at the bear's face when it lunged. Blood flowed from both combatants now, staining the ground beneath them. "This defies all behavioral models," muttered Mori, frantically updating her data. "The survival instinct should be triggering flight response, not sustained engagement with an apex predator." "Expand visual range," ordered Commander Xilara, her 4 eyes wide with fascination. "I want to see everything." The battle continued with brutal intensity. Though clearly outmatched in raw strength, Maya fought with cunning and desperation. She maneuvered between trees to limit the bear's mobility, used terrain advantages, and struck repeatedly at the same vulnerable points: eyes, nose, throat. The precision of her attacks suggests detailed knowledge of predator anatomy, noted Zevran with growing professional interest. She's not just fighting randomly. Of course not, replied Jory. According to her profile, she's extensively trained in wilderness survival. She studied these creatures. After nearly 10 minutes of combat, far longer than any of the observers thought possible, both human and bear were bloodied and exhausted. Maya's left arm hung uselessly at her side, but she had somehow recovered her chemical spray and now held a large knife in her right hand. The bear, one eye swollen shut and bleeding from multiple facial wounds, seemed to reassess its situation. With a final threatening growl, it turned and retreated into the forest. Silence engulfed the observation deck of the Eternal Curiosity. It withdrew, Vish finally said, breaking the stunned quiet. A rational decision, replied Morty, still staring at the screen in disbelief. The energy expenditure and injury risk exceeded the potential caloric gain of the prey. Maya waited several minutes, knife still ready, before finally allowing herself to collapse against a tree trunk. She was breathing heavily, face pale from blood loss, but immediately began treating her wounds with supplies from her pack. "Commander," Zevran said softly, his former dismissiveness entirely gone, "I believe we have significantly underestimated human combat capabilities." Silara nodded slowly, all four eyes still fixed on the screen. "Indeed. Update the capability assessment immediately." As the crew bustled with renewed activity, recording and analyzing what they had witnessed, Maya finished bandaging her arm, swallowed some medication from her medical kit, and began rebuilding her fire. Despite her grievous injuries, she showed no signs of panic or despair. Instead, she methodically secured her position, treated her wounds, and prepared for the remainder of the night. "Most fascinating," murmured Jory. "She defeated an apex predator with minimal tools, and is now continuing with survival tasks despite significant injury. What drives such determination?" Silara watched the screen thoughtfully. "Perhaps we've been measuring the wrong parameters. Physical strength and sensory acuity may be less relevant than this. Resilience." Maya looked up suddenly, scanning the night sky as if sensing something amiss. For just a moment, her eyes seemed to pass directly over the position of the cloaked observation drone. Then, with a grim smile that revealed blood-stained teeth, she spoke into the darkness. "Not today. Not ever." As she returned to tending her fire, Commander Xilura felt an unfamiliar sensation ripple through her bioluminescent patterns, something akin to what humans might call unease. She found herself wondering if Maya somehow knew they were watching, and if other humans shared this terrifying combination of intelligence, knowledge, and savage determination when threatened. 3 standard cycles later, the mood aboard the Eternal Curiosity had shifted dramatically. What had begun as a routine observation mission now carried an undercurrent of nervous tension. Commander Xilura had ordered expanded surveillance to include multiple human habitats, military installations, and conflict zones. "The Federation Council needs to understand what we are potentially dealing with," Xilura explained during the morning briefing. "These humans aren't simply clever tool users as previously classified. They possess something more concerning. Raw determination," offered Jory, who had been analyzing cultural patterns nonstop since witnessing Maya's battle. "Their will to survive exceeds rational biological imperatives, which makes them unpredictable. And unpredictable species rarely integrate smoothly into galactic society," concluded Xilura. The view screen displayed multiple surveillance feeds from around the planet: urban centers, research facilities, combat training grounds. Humans went about their daily routines, utterly unaware of the 14 pairs of alien eyes scrutinizing their every move. "Commander," called Vish from his station, "I've located Maya Chen again. She's fully recovered from her injuries and has returned to the wilderness area." "Show me," ordered Silara, her mandibles clicking with interest. The main screen switched to a forested mountainside. Maya hiked along a narrow trail, her previously injured arm now moving normally. She carried a more substantial pack this time, along with what appeared to be recording devices and sampling equipment. Analysis indicates she's conducting her planned research expedition, reported Trelnick. The encounter with the predator appears to have had minimal psychological impact on her behavior. Fascinating resilience, noted Zevran, who had completely revised his assessment of human capabilities. The physical recovery alone should have taken much longer based on our medical models. Permission to deploy additional monitoring drones, Commander, requested Vish. I'd like to establish a more comprehensive observation grid around her location. Granted, Silara nodded, but maintained strict cloaking protocols. After her previous behavior, I'm not entirely convinced she didn't detect our presence somehow. New feeds appeared on screen as microscopic surveillance units dispersed throughout the forest. Maya moved with purpose, occasionally stopping to collect samples or make notations on her equipment. She appears to be tracking something, observed Morty, leaning forward to study the human's movements. Confirmed, replied Vish. Sensors are detecting trace biological markers consistent with Ursine predator species. The research team exchanged meaningful glances. She's deliberately tracking the same type of creature that nearly killed her, asked Krax incredulously. For what purpose? Research, most likely, answered Chori. Remember her professional focus, wilderness survival instruction. The attack may have heightened her scientific interest rather than triggering avoidance behavior. Or perhaps, Silara said quietly, she seeks something else entirely. The hypothesis hung in the air, uncomfortable yet impossible to dismiss. The crew watched in silent fascination as Maya followed a set of large paw prints through increasingly dense vegetation. Commander, interrupted Vish suddenly, his voice pitched higher than normal. Sensors are detecting an unknown vessel approaching Earth's atmosphere at high velocity. Identify, ordered Silara sharply. Processing signature, not Federation design. Weapons systems active. Commander, it's a Voxanar raider ship. A cold feeling settled in Silara's thoracic cavity. The Voxanar, notorious interstellar pirates and slavers, were prohibited from approaching protected worlds under galactic treaty. Their presence could mean only one thing. They had detected the research vessel and identified Earth as a potential target. Battle stations, Silara commanded, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Initiate emergency protocols and prepare to defend our position. As alarm signals flashed across the ship, Silara made a quick decision. Trelnick, maintain observation of the human subject. I want to know if she detects the Voxanar approach. The eternal curiosity trembled as it powered up its defensive systems, abandoning its perfect concealment for battle readiness. On the planet below, Maya Chen paused in her tracking, looking up at the sky with a puzzled expression. Something was about to change the course of both their worlds forever. Calculated risk. The eternal curiosity's bridge erupted into controlled chaos as the crew prepared for potential conflict. The Voxanar raider ship, a jagged silhouette against Earth's upper atmosphere, had dropped all pretense of stealth and was closing rapidly on their position. Analysis confirms Voxanar harvester-class vessel, reported Krax, his scales now a deep crimson. Weapons charge, boarding systems activated. Crew complement estimated at 30 to 40 raiders. Commander Silara accessed the tactical display with 2 of her eyes, while keeping the other 2 fixed on Maya Chen's feed. They outgun and outnumber us. Defensive options. Limited, Krax admitted grimly. Research vessels aren't equipped for combat against military-grade opposition. We can evade temporarily, but cannot sustain direct engagement. Communication from the Voxanar vessel, announced Communications Officer Pell, her leafy appendages trembling slightly. On screen, ordered Silara. The main view screen flickered to reveal a Voxanar commander. Reptilian features arranged in what passed for a smile in their species, metal implants gleaming along his scared jaw. Behind him, heavily armed raiders prepared weapons and restraint equipment. Federation scientists, the Voxanar commander hissed in accented galactic standard. How fortunate for us to find you studying such an interesting world. Captain Razak of the Blood Tide, extends his greetings. Silara straightened to her full height. This world is protected under Federation Treaty 5591. Your presence here violates 17 separate provisions. Razak's smile widened, revealing rows of serrated teeth. Treaties only matter when enforcement is possible. Your research vessel poses no threat to us, and the Federation patrol fleet is 3 sectors away. Now we have 2 simple options for you. He held up a clawed digit. 1. You transmit all your observational data on this planet's dominant species to us immediately. Then depart the system. We pretend this encounter never happened. A second claw extended. 2. We destroy your engines, board your vessel, extract the information anyway, then sell your crew to the highest bidder in the Outer Rim markets. Scientific specimens fetch an excellent price. On the secondary screen, Maya Chen continued her trek through the forest, utterly unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding above her. You're planning to harvest humans, Silara stated flatly. Such insight. This is why I respect scientists, Razak mocked. Our preliminary scans suggest they'd make excellent slave labor on the mining colonies. Physically adaptable, reasonably intelligent, yet primitive enough to control easily. The perfect commodity. Silara's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with barely contained fury. We won't facilitate the enslavement of a sentient species. Noble but ultimately irrelevant, Razak replied with a dismissive gesture. We'll conduct our own assessment if necessary. Your data would simply make the process more efficient. His expression hardened. You have 10 standard minutes to decide. Transmit your data or prepare to be boarded. The communication terminated, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Options? Silara asked, turning to her crew. We could transmit falsified data, suggested Trelnick. Corrupt files that would take them time to verify. They'd detect the deception and attack anyway, countered Krax. Emergency distress beacon, offered Pell. The nearest Federation vessel is 17 hours away at maximum speed. Vish reported after checking the stellar charts. We be long captured before help arrived. Zevran's crystalline structure vibrated with agitation. Commander, I feel compelled to point out that our observations of human combat capabilities, particularly regarding Maya Chen, suggest the Voxnar may be severely underestimating their intended targets. Explain, Silara prompted, already considering the same possibility. If our single subject could defeat an apex predator through sheer determination and tactical thinking, imagine what organized human resistance might accomplish. The Voxnar are making a critical assessment error. An interesting academic point, Krax interjected, but irrelevant to our immediate survival. Perhaps not, Silara said slowly, an unorthodox plan forming in her mind. Pell, how close can we get to Maya Chen's position without breaking atmospheric protocols? The communications officer looked startled. Within approximately 5 kilometers, but that would risk detection by human monitoring systems. Commander, Krax said warily, you're not considering contact. The non-interference directive is superseded by emergency protocols when facing imminent threat to Federation personnel or protected species. Silara finished. Razak intends to enslave humanity regardless of our decision. That changes everything. She turned to the science team. Prepare all our observational data on Maya Chen and human combat capabilities. Pell, craft an emergency message explaining our situation and the Voxnar threat. Include visual identification of their species and known weaknesses. This is unprecedented, Trelnick said, though he was already moving to comply. Direct communication with an uncontacted species will be the least of our concerns if the Voxnar establish a foothold on Earth. Silara finished firmly. Vish, move us into position. Krax, prepare defensive countermeasures to buy us time after transmission. The Eternal Curiosity broke from its stable orbit, descending rapidly toward the Canadian wilderness. On screen, Maya Chen had stopped at a small stream, filling her water container and studying what appeared to be animal tracks. Voxanar vessel has altered course to intercept, reported Cracks. They're tracking us. Time to transmission range. Silara asked. 45 seconds. Commander, interrupted Zevran urgently. I should note that even if we successfully transmit to the human, there's no guarantee she'll understand or believe the message. We have no established communication protocols. We observed her defeat a creature twice her size, through intelligence and determination. Silara replied. If any human can comprehend and adapt to this situation, it's her. In transmission range, announced Pell. Message packet ready. The Voxanar are charging weapons, Cracks warned. Impact imminent in 20 seconds. Silara made her decision. Transmit now, then evasive maneuvers. The Eternal Curiosity shuddered as the message beamed toward Earth's surface. Seconds later, the first Voxanar energy blast struck their shields, sending cascading power failures throughout the ship. Direct hit to port stabilizers, called Engineering Officer Lum, his mechanical appendages working frantically across multiple control panels. Shields at 60% and failing. Evasive pattern Delta, ordered Silara. Did the transmission complete? Pell checked her systems. Affirmative. Data packet successfully delivered to the human's communication device. On the view screen, Maya Chen froze, staring in confusion at the small device in her hand, which had suddenly activated without her input. As she examined it, the Eternal Curiosity took another devastating hit. Shields critical. Hull breach on Deck 3, reported Lom. Incoming communication from the Voxanar, announced Pell. Razak's reptilian face appeared once more, this time openly hostile. Foolish scientists. Whatever you transmitted to the surface won't save you or this primitive world. Now you'll experience Voxanar hospitality firsthand. The Eternal Curiosity shook violently as a powerful tractor beam locked onto its hull, slowly pulling the damaged research vessel toward the much larger Voxanar ship. Engines failing, reported Lom grimly. Cannot break free. Silara stared at the view screen where Maya Chen was now scrolling through the transmitted data package, her expression a mixture of disbelief and growing determination. All we can do now is hope, the commander said quietly. Hope that we've chosen the right human. The Blood Tide's docking bay loomed before them, a maw of metal and malice ready to swallow the Federation vessel whole. As the Eternal Curiosity was pulled inexorably toward capture, the crew watched their freedom slipping away, along with any hope for Earth's unsuspecting population. On the surface below, Maya Chen packed her gear with urgent efficiency, her face set in a grim mask of purpose as she studied the alien information on her device one last time before beginning a rapid descent from the mountain. The hunt had changed, but this time, she wasn't tracking a bear. Unexpected alliance. The holding cell aboard the Voxanar vessel Blood Tide hummed with energy barriers designed to contain a variety of species. Commander Silara sat motionless in the center of the cell, her 4 eyes closed in what appeared to be meditative resignation. Around her, the rest of the science team was confined in similar cells, each adapted to their specific physiologies. Heavy footsteps announced the arrival of Captain Razak, flanked by 2 heavily armed guards. The energy barrier shimmered and parted, allowing him to enter Silara's cell. I hope your accommodations are adequate, Commander, Razak said with mock courtesy. We rarely host Federation scientists. Silara opened her eyes but remained seated. What have you done with my ship? Your vessel is being thoroughly examined by my technical team. The data cores proved resistant to our initial extraction attempts. Your security protocols are impressive. His expression hardened, but ultimately futile. We will access your observational data eventually. And then, Razak's scaled lips pulled back in what passed for a smile. Then we begin the harvest. Based on our own scans, this planet hosts nearly 8 billion potential slaves, the largest untapped labor source in this sector. You're making the grave miscalculation, Silara said calmly. These humans are not what they appear to be. Yes, yes, your mysterious transmission to the surface. Razak waved a dismissive claw. A desperate gesture. One primitive native with outdated communication technology can hardly pose a threat to the blood tide. What do you know of humans, Captain? Razak snorted. Primitive bipeds with minimal natural defenses. No claws, no significant strength, no environmental adaptations. Their technology is centuries behind galactic standard. They haven't even achieved unified planetary governance. All true, Silara acknowledged, and yet incomplete. Something in her tone made Razak pause. Explain. We've spent 3 cycles studying them. There's something you can't measure with scanners, something we didn't initially understand ourselves. The captain leaned closer, genuine curiosity momentarily overriding his arrogance. And what would that be? They don't stop, Silara said simply. They should, by any rational biological standard. They should submit when outmatched, flee when threatened, surrender when defeated. But they don't. They continue fighting long past the point where any reasonable species would accept its fate. Razak laughed, a harsh grating sound. Primitive stubbornness is not a tactical advantage against Voxnar technology, Commander. Perhaps. We shall see. The captain straightened, irritated by her calm certainty. Your Federation delusions of species equality have clouded your judgment. While you waste time protecting primitive worlds, the Voxnar expand our empire. These humans will serve as our labor force for generations to come, beginning with this one. He gestured, and the energy barrier parted again. 2 guards dragged in a struggling figure, Maya Chen, battered and bloodied but very much alive and radiating defiance. Silara managed to hide her shock. How had they captured her so quickly? Your message recipient, Razak announced proudly. Found attempting to infiltrate a Voxnar ground scout vessel. Primitive weapons, primitive tactics. She killed 2 of my crew before being subdued. An impressive feat for a lower species, I admit, but ultimately meaningless. Maya's eyes locked with Silara's, the first direct contact between human and Federation alien. There was no fear in that gaze, only cold calculation and something else the commander recognized from their observations, that uniquely human blend of rage and determination. So this is who sent the warning, Maya said, her voice steady despite her injuries. You don't look like the other ones. Different species, Silara replied simply. I am Commander Silara of the Galactic Federation research vessel Eternal Curiosity. Maya Chen, wilderness survival instructor, former Special Forces. She looked Razak up and down with open contempt. And these are the pirates you warned about. Razak struck her across the face, sending her sprawling to the floor. You will learn respect, human. Your species' place in the galaxy is about to change dramatically. Maya wiped blood from her split lip and smiled, the same unsettling expression Silara had seen after the bear encounter. You have no idea what you've started. Empty threats from an ignorant primitive. Razak scoffed. I'll leave you 2 to share your final moments of freedom. Tomorrow we begin the first phase of the harvest operation. After the Voxnar left, Silara moved to Maya's side. You understood our transmission. Enough of it. Universal translator technology. Nice touch. Explained a lot about those drones that were following me. Maya winced as she sat up. You've been watching me. A scientific observation mission, Silara confirmed. We study developing species to determine their readiness for galactic contact.